Welcome. My name is Kathrina Miccio, and you're joining us with Indie Film Online. We're now in the middle of our Venus Italian International Film Festival and our previews and our interviews with the filmmakers and script writers. And the festival is June 6th and 7th, and awards are on the 8th. So right now we are bringing you a fantastic filmmaker. It's a short film, but it's got a lot of substance to it.
Hey, Kat.
How are you?
I'm really good.
Good.
Yeah, really nice to see you.
Nice to see you too.
It's great to have some time with you this evening
Yes.
to talk about clubs and sticks.
I really enjoyed this. Are you a historian by nature?
I'm a lay historian. I've always had an absolute interest in the past.
Okay.
By exploring the past, I think we can learn more about our future, because it seems as a human race we keep making the same mistakes. And clubs and sticks has a real analogy to what's going on in the world today. And if you've enjoyed it, you've enjoyed the color and the vibrance of it and the way it's shot. But the story there is very deep and very meaningful. So what did you enjoy most about it?
I love the twists of it, like how you tried to imagine how things would have gone if it didn't go the way that history really went, if it went a completely different way. But also,
fascination is
the set was fabulous, and the costume.
It's not about an individual; it's about everybody. It's about telling the story. The wonderful David. Just his charisma, right through to set design and camera, sound. Even the food was great.
Did you eat like chicken off the a big leg of chicken?
No. All on the floor after. Hey.
Right. And wine.
That's a secret. I'm not going to tell you that one. We had great catering. That's important. One of the most important things about a film: make sure the catering's good, and then everyone's happy.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, now I think things are going to be a little bit different with catering.
They are absolutely. It's a very challenging time.
Yes.
And it's a time when you've got to send out a lot of love. And a lot of understanding to people, a lot of kindness in the world.
Yes.
And certainly the film industry has kind of reinvented itself in the strangest way. I've got director friends who have been busier than ever, and other people in the industry who really, they're just finding life so challenging at the moment. And so television, for example, has come into its own, hasn't it? It's like one-to-one. Let's do game shows where we've got all these people there on their own screen, doing it on Zoom. Okay, it's
whatever works,
But it's great, isn't it?
It wasn't originally an online festival. I had it last year. I had it in Las Vegas. It was the first Italian film festival in Las Vegas ever.
That's the interesting thing about clubs and sticks, is that it picks up on the fact that the aristocracy of Europe were obsessed with Italy. They're obsessed with the Grand Tour and the neoclassical architecture of ancient Rome. And they wanted to kind of reinvent that whole lifestyle. So when generally people were in a very, very impoverished kind of way, and people were beginning to pour from the countryside into the cities were overwhelmed. There was immense poverty. And there was this minuscule elite with too much money who were just humiliating the poor. And the average person didn't have a look in, but they had an obsession with doing the Grand Tour, which they felt would intellectualize themselves. Travel's great. Travel broadens the mind in any respect, but they would latch on to ancient Rome in perhaps sometimes the nicest ways in the classical architecture, but in this sense, they would latch on to the hedonism. And clubs and sticks sees all these elite people. We have to consider genuinely, spies from France, members of the aristocracy, Benjamin Franklin, for goodness sake, one of the founding fathers, going to a tunnel under a hill in Buckinghamshire in England, where they have orgies and they bring prostitutes up the River Thames dressed as nuns.
Is that written
And
somewhere that happened?
well, it's supposed to be secret,
Oh.
but everyone knew. But, you know, when you look at it, when you look at the world today and you see the darker side of some of the things that have been in the news recently, you begin to see a bit of an analogy. And, you know, is it that ultimate power corrupts? Ultimate power, yes. Power needs to be individual empowerment. And this is all about the empowerment of the individual. And I think it's extraordinary too to see that when you delve into Benjamin Franklin and you delve into the life of Sir Francis Dashwood, this incredibly wealthy man, both of them had a kindness in their soul and an understanding that everybody needed a slice of the pie, whereas a lot didn't. So there's this real conflict. And we see the story between the Jacobites and 1745 and Bonnie Prince Charlie coming over, trying to seize the crown of Britain. And then we see the American War of Independence. And we find this little link between the two that's quite extraordinary. And it's very easy to surmise that Franklin had a bit of an idea going with Dashwood, that they would utilize some of the lost money from the Jacobite failed revolution to fund the American War of Independence. So it kind of weaves that thread. And the celebrities of the time, the movers and shakers that all went through this, I'm moving my hand to emphasize that. It's just kind of like, it's just such an extraordinary tale. I want to tell more. In fact, my colleague Paolo and I, we've written a series treatment for 10 episodes. And we'd love to get that into production.
For clubs.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I was just going to ask that. I could totally see this as a series. Absolutely.
Thank you.
I would love to see this as a series.
And it's a story that kind of needs telling. And, you know, there's another side to it as well. And you kind of feel that the other actor in this is silent, but it's her empowerment, you know. She's kind of looking after David's character, the enigmatic man. The enigmatic man is kind of a hint that he's all of us. We all see these stories going on, and we're all kind of like a little bit, you know, what's going on in the world? We look at the news at the moment in the States, and it's just like, oh, you know.
Well, I think it's a perfect introduction to, because he was more of a narrator. It didn't bother me that she didn't speak. I'm sure it bothered her. I'm sure that she would like
it.
But he was more of a narrator.
Yeah,
but that's
absolutely.
You know, so it made sense that she wasn't speaking. It would have almost sounded a little bit strange. All of a sudden, she's going to say, "Hey, want a blanket?" You know.
Oh, what's up? You know, yeah.
Yeah, hey.
But you know, the interesting thing, I had a chat with David just the other day, and you know, he's such a wonderful character, and he's a classically trained actor.
What
and
he's
saying, you know, in this time of lockdowns and pandemics, you could film this just, you know, as the world is today. So you get a small masked up team together, you do it within the safety, you know, film industry just beginning to wake up again, isn't it, after this terrible time in the world. Yeah. We've all got to pull together, we've all been in the same boat together, and it's just something you could make in that kind of a way. Flattered personally, but not for myself, but for everyone who's involved in this, that we've got this into your wonderful film festival. So I think incredibly enlightening and embracing, and it comes at a time when people just, you know, sharing things around the world is so important.
Absolutely. And we have been, I mean, it's, you know, we're doing Zoom and FaceTime Live and everything just so that we have some human contact and sharing things. And, you know,
but, you know, every time there's a negative in the world, you have to look, there's a positive as well.
Absolutely. I mean, people that are going to hear this, I say it over and over again, but 5 years ago, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And so, but
Okay.
I'm perfectly clear. And after a
Yeah.
month, they got rid of it. But, I went through a lot, a year and a half of treatments to make sure
Well,
that
I
it
send
was
you a lot of kindred love with that.
thank you. But
I had surgery in 2016.
I
I'm
read that you had,
stage 4 carcinoid cancer.
oh my goodness.
Currently, no recurrent tumor growths. And I don't dwell on it. I've been blessed and
No,
fortunate, and I've met
absolutely.
the most wonderful people. I've seen people I would never have expected to be so giving and kind to me. My family, my friends have been incredibly supportive.
What you were saying is you have to make something good out of something bad. And, that's what we do as creators.
Absolutely.
We have to
Yeah.
just, if we have a setback, we have to create something. So I make films too. I mean, I
Yeah.
wrote a comedy while I was in treatment.
Because
So,
that's the best way.
yeah,
Laughter is the best medicine.
yes, of course.
Yeah.
I absolutely agree with that. So I really would love to see this as a series. I see your mind, and I think it's fabulous. Do you have it all written out as
Yes,
a
we
series?
do.
You do.
If you look on my website,
Mhm.
you can see some of my other little films and stories and things that I've been involved in. And Paolo and I have the complete series Bible. We're working on the script for that at the moment as well. So everything's written out and logged out, and it's not just about female empowerment. You think there's a darkness runs through that whole era. Okay, so there's some very unpalatable things that we have as script writers to deal with, and we have to deal with things like slavery, for example, and to do that in such a way that you see that Franklin was an abolitionist. Franklin, though, had come over to London with with two slaves. One left his employment, if we want to call it. It's not, is it? It's appalling. And one became his friend. It's a very that in itself. I wanted to explore that, and I found out that in Fleet Street, in the 1740s, 1750s, there were actually pubs, inns. There was a black community in London, about 10,000 people. Now, some of those were soldiers, some of those were the families of. It was the beginning of London's multicultural society as well, in lots of ways. The Huguenots would pour over from France. And London always, like New York, like any big city really, has always been a microcosm of cultures all coming together. And in the story, there's a time when Franklin, on his return to Boston, links arms with people of all faiths and crosses the bridge. And I just thought that's kind of like, within the context of it, a nice intro to where the world should be at today. It's not about who you are or where you are or what your beliefs are in one way. It's about what you are as a person and how you interact with other people. And within the context of our short film, David Bailey is narrating his thoughts. He's explaining what he's actually seen. So he wasn't a mover or a shaker particularly. He's seen these terrible goings on, and he wants to explain it. So Bonnie Prince Charlie, for example, have been romanticized and romanticized in such a way that to this day there was a film decades ago with David Niven starring in it, Bonnie Prince Charlie. But in actuality, he returned to the continent. He actually returned to London secretly a couple of times. He was recognised. He ran away, but he became a domestic abuser and an alcoholic. And his wife actually fled to England where King George actually took care of her in lots of ways. So it's a very unusual, very strange story, and it delves into some aspects of life that we're all uncomfortable about from that era, but it also delves into the humanity of it. And it's kind of like saying to everybody, you need to look to your past, because much of the world was directed to where it is now by things that went on then.
Of course.
And that's hugely important. Yeah.
Everything.
But I've loved talking to you.
I love talking to you too.
You see, I'm very enthusiastic about this story, and I want to get it out there.
I know.
Don't all write a directive.
I know. I wanted to know what was going on in your mind. I was very interested to meet with you. And do you have like any kind of a deal pending with?
No, currently we don't.
Okay.
So we've been very close with this.
I'm going to try to, with the people that I know here, I would love to see it go somewhere,
Well, I'd love you, I'd love you to be involved in that journey, and to get this moved on down the road. At this time, it's also, it's a very enthusiastic story, and you could almost liken.
Anyway, they love history, period.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's also encompassing, and it brings people together within the context of enjoying a story too.
Yeah, I mean, has it gone through a lot of festivals?
No.
Oh.
And the reason for that was I became profoundly unwell. As I say, I've had 3 major operations.
Wow.
I won't show you my scars, okay?
No, thank you. Any festivals? Or am I the first?
You are the first, aren't you?
Oh, I'm honored. I'm honored. Well, I have to tell you that, in my last festival at the Cutting Room, I have 3 film festivals.
Yeah.
I have the Cutting Room, this one in Procida in Italy, and 2 people got signed in the last festival. So I'm really happy about that. I bring people, I bring financial people, distributors, whatever. So anything that I could do to help you out with that, I'd love to.
That'd be incredibly cool. It really would.
I
want to know, do you like the candle? Do you like the candle behind me? I kind of thought I'd do it a little bit hellfiery, a little bit, clubs and sticks.
That chair, was that in the film? That chair?
It should have been, shouldn't it?
Should have been.
It's for sale. But Kat, Kat, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you. I really hope everyone who watches it enjoys it. And you're right, the cinematography and the costume design, all those aspects of it, and our makeup lady Bella, her father's a historian actually. His name's Dan Cruikshank.
And that big wig, I mean, it could have looked really tacky, but it looked really, really good.
That's his real hair. No, I'm kidding. Oh, hers, yeah. Yeah, well, that's kind of hip in London at the moment. I'm kidding you. Because no one's been able to get their hair cut, you see. It's
right.
I'm joking. But no, it was, so everything like that from something as simplistic as a wig, you have to get it right, don't you?
You have to get it right, or it would look so tacky.
Yeah. But I did have one director moment, though, during the making of it. And literally, we had to stop every 15 minutes to hear, because you've got the London Underground trains going nearby, and one would loop round, and then there was some guy outside who we'd made sure all the permissions were in place for everything, and suddenly he starts a jackhammer going. So I went outside and I said, "Stop that noise immediately!"
In the suburbs, you have you usually have lawnmowers and things like that, and
kids' dogs.
You have ambulances, fire trucks, and so it's
So it all works out. It's really cool. Oh, so Kat, I've absolutely had a blast chatting to you.
I had a blast talking to you as well, and I hope that you could make it for the Q&A as well after the block. We're
I'm
going to
really
have
happy to do
the
anything
red
like that.
carpet awards
Yeah.
on Monday, on the 8th. So
Yeah.
you want to get dressed up, that's up to you. I'll be dressed up. People are like, all right, I
Oh,
guess I'll take a shower.
hey, I did that. But I was thinking like, yeah, light the candle, make sure you got the right chair.
It's
Oh,
amazing. It's like a
quick,
set behind you. It's
it's
perfect.
too hot, put a shirt on. It's 2 buttons risque.
Hey, this is an excuse for me to put some makeup on and look like
Yeah, you look very glamorous, Kat. That's
oh, well,
great.
thank you. And I don't usually, over the past 2.5 months, I have not looked like this. So I like to look a little girly when, So great. I'm so pleased to meet you, and we'll see you during the Q&A.
Absolutely. And
All right.
thank you to
Thank
everybody
you so
for the
much.
support, the kindness, and I really hope you enjoy it. And go out and explore history. Look at your local history and dig into the history that affects us today. And there's so many cool stories. And this is one. And this is an important one. And anyone in Italy, you'll be looking at the neoclassical architecture in Britain, and anyone in America will be going, Ben Franklin. There's
Yeah,
so much of a story in there for everybody.
it really
And
is.
thank you very much indeed. It couldn't
Thank
have been
you.
nice to meet you.
Oh, so nice to meet you.
My absolute pleasure. Do I
Okay.
blow the candle out now?
If you're going to sleep, or don't if you have to, walk somewhere. Don't trip.
Oh,